I thought I had it all: love, stability, the future I'd been building for years. Elena was everything to me. We met at a time when life seemed simple, when promises of forever felt like something I could grasp. Her laughter, her smile, they were my world, and I thought she felt the same. But that was before everything shattered. I found the messages. Her phone buzzed with a text that shouldn't have been there. I didn't mean to look, but curiosity gnawed at me. It wasn't a "hey, how was your day?" or a "thinking of you." It was him, Richard. She told me he was just a colleague, a mentor even. The man she worked for, the one she admired. But the words in those messages were something else. Words I couldn't ignore. "I miss you," followed by a heart emoji, and then, "Can't wait to be with you tonight." I couldn't breathe. My hands shook, my heart hammered in my chest. Richard, her boss, the man who had everything I didn't. He was in the picture in ways I couldn't ever compete with. My head spun, the realization sinking in, but I couldn't stop reading. That was when I confronted her. I stormed into the living room, my heart racing. "Elena," I said, my voice trembling, "what is this?" She looked up from the couch, her face momentarily blank before the mask fell into place. "What are you talking about?" she asked, her voice too calm, too practiced. I tossed the phone on the coffee table, the screen facing up. She didn't even flinch. "Don't act like you don't know," I snapped. "What the hell is this? You're with him, aren't you?" Elena's eyes flicked to the phone. She didn't pick it up, didn't apologize, just shrugged. "It's not what you think," she said, but there was no emotion in her words. I felt a coldness spread through me, something I hadn't felt in years. Betrayal. It stung, but it wasn't just the affair. It was how easily she dismissed me. "You're just going to lie to my face?" I asked, my voice low and dangerous. "I'm not stupid, Elena." Her eyes darted briefly to the phone, then back to me. "It's over, all right?" she said, her tone flat. "It's been over for a while now. We've just been pretending, haven't we?" The words hit harder than I expected. "It's over." She said it like it didn't even matter. Like I didn't matter. My chest felt hollow, but I didn't know what to do. I thought, this can't be happening. The woman I loved, the woman I'd trusted, was telling me it was over, and not even with a shred of remorse. "Just cold indifference. How long?" I managed, fighting the lump in my throat. "How long has it been going on?" Elena didn't meet my eyes. She took a long breath, then finally muttered, "A few months." My world tilted. "A few months?" The weight of those words crushed me. She'd been lying to me for months? While I was working, building a future, she was with him. The man I knew nothing about, except for the fact that he could give her everything I couldn't. Everything I wasn't. I staggered back, my hands gripping the arm of the couch for support. My chest hurt like I couldn't breathe. "How could you?" I whispered, more to myself than to her. "After everything we've been through, how could you do this to me?" She didn't answer. Just stared at me, cold and distant, like I was a stranger. Her face was unreadable, like she had already checked out of this relationship long before I ever realized. "Does he know about me?" I asked, my voice cracking. Elena paused, but it wasn't long enough for me to think she cared. "It doesn't matter," she said, standing up. "I'm done pretending, okay? I'm moving out. It's better this way." I couldn't understand. I couldn't grasp it. I had given everything to her. And this? This was how she repaid me? My hands clenched into fists. The anger burned, hotter than the betrayal. But it wasn't just rage that filled me. It was a deep, aching emptiness. "So, what? You're just going to walk out of here like nothing happened?" I asked, trying to control my shaking voice. "After everything?" She didn't even flinch. "Yeah," she said softly, as if the words were nothing. "It's over." I stood there, paralyzed, as she gathered her things. Each movement felt like it was happening in slow motion. I couldn't process it. How could she be so cold? By the time she walked out the door, I was left standing in the middle of the living room, feeling like my world had just imploded. I had nothing left. My wife, my trust, everything I had fought for, it was all gone. I wanted to scream. To break something. But I couldn't even find the energy. I felt empty, like a part of me had been ripped away. I looked down at the phone on the coffee table, the last shred of proof. I didn't even want to look at it anymore, but I picked it up anyway. Richard. I didn't know the man, but I hated him with every ounce of my being. He had taken my wife, my future. He had everything I didn't, but he wouldn't keep her. Not forever. I swore to myself that I wouldn't let this go. I wouldn't let him win. He had stolen my wife, but he hadn't stolen me. I still had my pride, and I would get it back. But right now, all I felt was numb. The life I knew was gone, and I had no idea where to begin to pick up the pieces. I didn't know how to breathe after she left. My entire world had crumbled, and I was left standing in the wreckage. The silence that followed Elena's departure was suffocating. I couldn't even move. I couldn't bring myself to clear her. Things from the house, not that it would have made much of a difference. Every inch of the place was now tainted with memories of her. Every corner seemed to echo her absence. The couch where we used to laugh together felt foreign. The kitchen table where we'd shared meals now stood empty, its emptiness mocking me. I spent days, maybe weeks, lying in the same spot on the couch, staring at the ceiling, unable to shake the crushing weight on my chest. I kept wondering where it had all gone wrong. Where had I failed? Was I not good enough? My mind replayed every moment of our relationship, trying to find the answers. But all I found were dead ends. She'd been so careful, so secretive. I still couldn't understand how she could just leave, how she could betray me like that without any second thoughts. I wanted to scream at her, shake her, ask her why. Why him? Why Richard? My phone buzzed on the coffee table. I didn't want to look at it. I didn't want to deal with anything. But my fingers moved before my mind could stop them, and I picked it up. Another email from work. I stared at the screen, but the words didn't make sense. My mind was too clouded to focus. I couldn't concentrate anymore. My job that had once felt so secure now seemed pointless. What did any of it matter? Elena was gone, and I had no idea what the hell I was supposed to do now. My boss had called earlier, but I couldn't bring myself to answer. I couldn't pretend everything was fine. I couldn't show up to work, pretending to be okay when all I wanted to do was crawl into a hole and disappear. So, I ignored his calls. I ignored everyone. I barely left the house. The people who used to know me, they didn't know this version of me. This broken shell of a man who couldn't even get out of bed in the morning. Weeks passed in a blur. Work was slipping away. My relationships with my colleagues had begun to sour. I snapped at anyone who tried to talk to me. I used to be the guy people turned to for advice, for help. Now I was the one who couldn't even help myself. It felt like everything I'd worked so hard for was crumbling, piece by piece. My career was falling apart, and I didn't even care. One morning, I woke up on the couch, the same spot I'd been in for days. I hadn't moved. I barely slept. I didn't even remember falling asleep. But when I opened my eyes, there it was, a letter on the coffee table. My heart skipped. I recognized the handwriting instantly. Elena. I didn't want to open it. I didn't want to see what she had to say. But I did anyway. I picked it up and tore it open with trembling hands. I stared at the words, reading them over and over again, trying to process what she was saying. I'm sorry. I know this isn't easy for you, but I need you to understand. I'm leaving for good. I'm not coming back. Richard is who I want to be with now. I can't go on pretending I'm happy when I'm not. You deserve better. I hope one day you can forgive me. Her words stung worse than any slap. I'd been living in a nightmare for weeks, but now it felt like the final blow. She wasn't even sorry. She wasn't asking for forgiveness. She wasn't even regretful. She'd made her choice, and I was nothing more than a footnote in her life. She had moved on, and I was still drowning in the wake of her betrayal. I slammed the letter on the table, my heart racing. My whole body trembled with anger. I wanted to tear everything apart. I wanted to scream. How could she do this? How could she just leave like that and walk away from everything we had? But as the anger swelled inside me, something else began to stir, a slow, burning fire deep in my chest. It wasn't just anger. It was something else, something darker. The pain, the hurt. I could feel it transforming, twisting into something new. I could feel my old self starting to rise. The version of me who had been weak, who had let her walk all over me. That version of me was fading away. Something else was beginning to take its place. I'm not going to let this break me. It wasn't just about Elena anymore. It wasn't about her betrayal. It was about me. About my life. I had spent so long living in her shadow, in her world. I had been so focused on trying to be the perfect husband, the perfect man for her, that I forgot about myself. I'd put everything into making her happy, making sure she was content, while I withered away. But no more. I wasn't going to let her win. I wasn't going to let Richard win. This wasn't the end for me. It was just the beginning. I threw the letter across the room, my mind racing. I could feel the fire inside me growing, consuming the grief and anger. It was all I had left now. And that was enough. I stood up, my legs shaky at first, but then steadier with each passing second. The darkness that had consumed me for so long was finally beginning to lift. I couldn't stay here, wallowing in my misery. I had to move. I had to do something. I would rise from this. I would show her, show everyone that I wasn't the man they thought I was. I wasn't the man she left behind. I had no idea how or where to begin, but I was done letting life push me around. I wasn't going to be that weak man anymore. I was going to rebuild. I was going to take control of my life again, and I'd do whatever it took to get back what was mine. I don't know how it happened. One minute I was staring at the mess Elena left behind, drowning in my own despair, and the next, I woke up. Not in the house she'd left me in, not in the wreckage of everything we once had. No. I woke up in my old apartment, back before any of it happened. Before the betrayal. Before she walked out. At first, I thought it was a dream. Some kind of twisted nightmare where I relived my worst moments. But then I realized I wasn't dreaming. I was back. I was in the apartment I used to call home, the one I'd shared with Elena before everything came crashing down. The familiar scent of coffee filled the air. The sunlight came through the window the same way it always did. Everything was the same except me. I wasn't the same. I sat up in bed, looking around, trying to piece together what was going on. The calendar on the wall read the date from months ago, before I'd found out about Elena's affair. Before my life had gone off track. I should have felt overwhelmed, disoriented. But instead, I felt something else. Something I hadn't felt in so long. Control. I got out of bed, walking through the apartment like I had all the time in the world. I checked the clock. It was early, much earlier than when Elena usually woke up. I took a deep breath and smiled, a feeling stirring inside me. This was my chance. My second chance. I wasn't going to make the same mistakes. I wasn't going to be the man I used to be, the one who let things slide, who was content with mediocrity, who let people walk all over him. I had already been there, and I knew exactly what happened when I let my guard down. No more. I threw on some clothes, quickly gathering my things. I had a plan. I was going to work harder, smarter, do everything I could to rebuild. And this time, I was going to rise higher than I ever had before. I stepped into the kitchen, and there she was, sitting at the table, sipping her coffee. Elena. I froze. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. She looked up at me, startled, as if she hadn't expected me to be awake yet. "You're up early," she said, her tone casual, like nothing had changed, like nothing was about to change. I nodded, trying to steady myself. "Yeah, thought I'd get a jump on things today." She gave me a small smile, the one she always gave me when she thought everything was normal. But inside, I felt something shift. This wasn't normal. I wasn't the same man anymore, and I was going to make sure she saw it. I grabbed a mug from the cabinet, my hand steady now. "I've been thinking," I said, pouring myself a cup of coffee. "About everything." Her eyes narrowed, but she said nothing. She just watched me. The old me would have been nervous, would have second-guessed every word, but not anymore. I wasn't going to let her have the control. Not again. "I'm done," I continued, setting the mug down on the counter with a little more force than I intended. Done with letting things slide. Done with being content with the scraps. I'm going to make something of myself. And you're not part of that anymore. She looked at me like I was speaking in a foreign language, her mouth slightly open, as if she hadn't expected me to say any of that. I almost expected her to get angry, to start defending herself. But instead, she just sighed as if tired of the same old arguments. "You're still angry," she said, more to herself than to me. I told you it's over. There's nothing to fix, I looked at her. The woman I had spent so long trying to please, trying to make happy, was sitting there completely unaware of the fire inside me. I'm not angry anymore, I said, my voice low but clear. I'm just done. You don't get to define my life anymore. I'll be better without you. For the first time in a long while, I saw something shift in her eyes, a flicker of uncertainty, maybe regret. But I didn't care anymore. It was too late for her to fix this. Too late for her to come back into my life. I took a breath, stepping toward the door. I'm going to make something of myself, I said again, this time with more conviction. And when I do, you'll see. I'll show you. I'll show everyone. Elena opened her mouth to say something, but I didn't wait around for it. I turned on my heel and walked out the door, the sound of it closing behind me loud in the silence. The old apartment. The old me. It didn't matter anymore. I was going to take everything I'd ever wanted, everything I'd ever dreamed of, and nothing, not even her, was going to stand in my way. I stepped outside into the morning light, feeling the weight of it all lift from my shoulders. It was time to rise. This was my moment. The world had no idea what was coming. I wasn't just going to be better than I was. I was going to be everything I had ever wanted to be, and more. And Elena? She would never even see it coming. I've never felt more alive. The world is sharp now, clearer than it's ever been. Every decision I make, every move I take, it all feels deliberate. Every person I meet, I study them like they're a puzzle I need to solve. I've stopped waiting for opportunities to come to me. I go after them. And I'm not just surviving anymore, I'm thriving. When I first returned to work after Elena left, it felt like a graveyard. The office, once a place of camaraderie, now felt suffocating. I walked past the same faces, the same people who had once been my friends, my colleagues, but now I saw them differently. They were all just players in a game, and I wasn't going to be the guy who got left behind anymore. I was going to be the guy who rose above them all. It was slow at first. I started small, taking on projects no one else wanted, showing up earlier than anyone else, staying later. I didn't care if they noticed at first. I just knew I had to prove something, not just to them, but to myself. I wasn't the man who had been left broken, abandoned. I wasn't the man who had let Elena's betrayal ruin me. The first few months were tough. There were setbacks, times when I questioned whether this was worth it. But every time I felt that doubt creeping in, I remembered everything I had lost, and everything I was determined to gain. I wasn't doing this for anyone but me, and then something changed. Slowly, people started to notice. My boss gave me more responsibility, and with that, more power. My colleagues, the same ones who had once looked past me, began to ask for my advice. It wasn't much, but it was enough. It was the beginning of the shift. I had started to take control of my life, and that control was starting to bleed into everything around me. But what really pushed me forward, what really lit the fire, was the way Richard started to look at me. Richard, the man who had once taken everything from me, had started to notice me in ways I hadn't anticipated. It was subtle at first. A word of praise here, a slight nod of acknowledgement there, but I saw through it. He was paying attention, and what he didn't know was that I wasn't the same guy he had once thought was beneath him. "Impressive work on the Blackstone project," Richard said to me one day, his voice casual but laced with an edge. "I didn't think you had it in you." I didn't respond right away. Instead, I met his gaze, keeping my expression neutral. He had no idea how much I'd studied him, how many times I'd watched him from the shadows. He was a man of power, of influence, and he thought he had me figured out. But he didn't. "Thanks," I said, my voice calm but firm. "I'm just getting started." He seemed to take that in for a moment, and I could see the wheels turning in his mind. Richard was calculating. He always had been. But I wasn't the same man I had been when I was married to Elena, weak and willing to bend to whatever he wanted. I had learned how to play the game. As the weeks went by, I began to take on more high-profile projects, things that made people sit up and take notice. And with each success, I could feel the power shifting. I wasn't just climbing the ladder, I was becoming the ladder. It was during one of these projects that I ran into an old friend, Mark. He had always been a solid guy, someone I could rely on back when things were still good. But like most people, he had distanced himself after Elena left. Maybe he didn't know what to say, or maybe he just didn't want to get caught in the mess. "Hey man," he said, his voice full of hesitation when he approached me one day in the break room. "You doing okay?" I looked at him, and for a moment I saw the guy I used to be, the guy who was hurt, broken, just trying to survive. But that guy wasn't here anymore. He was long gone. "I'm doing better than ever," I replied, the words coming out effortlessly. "I'm back on track." Mark looked surprised. "That's good. Really, I mean, after everything, I thought you'd be..." "Don't worry about it," I cut him off. "I'm past it. I'm focused now, and I'm going to get everything I deserve." He raised an eyebrow, as if he didn't quite believe me. "You sure about that?" I smiled, but it wasn't a smile that reassured him. It was a smile that told him I was no longer the same man who had been crushed by the weight of betrayal. "I'm sure." As Mark walked away, I felt a strange sense of satisfaction. He didn't understand it. No one did except for me. They thought I was just getting over the pain. What they didn't know was that I wasn't just recovering. I was evolving. The months passed, and I could see it more clearly now. The shift in power. The way Richard started to retreat, unsure of how to handle me. The way my colleagues began to look at me differently. They weren't just seeing me as a guy who got lucky. They were seeing me as someone who had a future, someone who was going to take everything he deserved. One day, as I walked through the office, I passed Richard's office. He looked up, his eyes narrowing when he saw me. For a moment, I saw something in his gaze, something that resembled fear. "Good morning," I said, my voice calm, almost too casual. Richard said nothing, just nodded sharply, but I saw the tension in his jaw. The man who had once had everything now looked uncertain. It was a look I'd never seen before, and it filled me with a sense of power I hadn't expected. I was no longer the guy he could dismiss. I was no longer beneath him. I had become his equal, and soon I would be more than that. I had built myself back up, brick by brick. No more weakness, no more second guessing. The man I had been was long gone, buried under a pile of regret and bitterness. But I'd transformed. And just when I thought everything was falling into place, when I thought I could finally breathe again, she came back, Elena. It happened when I least expected it. One evening, I was heading home from work, feeling the familiar rush of accomplishment, when my phone buzzed. I didn't recognize the number, but I answered anyway. "Hello?" I said, my voice still hoarse from a long day. Is this really you?" Her voice came through, shaky, uncertain. It was Elena. I almost dropped the phone. "Elena," I muttered, my heart tightening in my chest. "What do you want?" I need to talk to you," she said, her voice small now, vulnerable. She paused, probably unsure of how to begin. "Can we meet, please?" I could feel the anger boiling inside me, but I also felt something else, something I hadn't expected. It was like I was standing at a crossroads. Everything inside me screamed to hang up, to tell her to get lost. But there was a part of me, a dark part, that wanted to hear her out. "What did she want now? Why? So you can beg for my forgiveness?" I asked, my voice colder than I intended. "I'm not begging," she shot back quickly, almost too quickly. I need to explain myself. I made a mistake. I didn't know what to say. A mistake. Was that really what she thought it was? A mistake? "You made a lot more than just a mistake, Elena," I said, cutting her off. "You destroyed everything." "I know," she whispered, and I could hear the regret in her voice now. But it was too little, too late. "Please, just meet me. I can't do this over the phone." I stared at the phone in my hand, grinding my teeth. I shouldn't even be considering it. But curiosity and something darker gnawed at me. "Fine," I finally said. "Tomorrow lunch, I'll meet you at the park." I didn't know why I agreed. Maybe it was for closure, or maybe it was because I wanted to see just how far she'd fallen. Either way, I wasn't going to make it easy for her. The next day, I stood under the tree at the park, waiting. My fingers drummed against my leg as I scanned the crowd. I couldn't help but notice how much the world had changed in the time since Elena had walked out of my life. It was all different now, all moving in ways I couldn't control. But I had learned to steer it, and then I saw her. She looked different. I couldn't put my finger on it, but something about her was off. The way she walked toward me, hesitant, as if unsure of what to expect. The woman who once had so much confidence now seemed small, fragile. "It didn't sit right with me, Elena," I said, my tone distant as she reached me. "It's been a while." She swallowed hard, eyes not meeting mine. "I know. I never thought I'd see you again. I didn't know if I should feel pity or rage." Maybe both. You never thought? I scoffed. You left me with nothing. What did you think would happen? She flinched at the harshness in my voice but didn't back down. I never wanted this. I didn't want to hurt you. Then why did you? I shot back. You've got a lot of nerve coming here after everything. After what you did? I know, she said quietly, her voice breaking. But I had to, Richard. She stopped herself, her eyes flicking around nervously. He's not the man you think he is. I raised an eyebrow, but I didn't speak. I wanted her to continue. She had come here for a reason. Everything was a lie, she said, her voice cracking. He used me. I was just another toy to him. And now he doesn't even look at me anymore. I thought I'd lost you forever, but it's him I've lost. And I can't live with that. For a second, I felt something stir within me. Something I couldn't quite place. Pity? But I quickly squashed it. This was the same woman who had destroyed everything, who had betrayed me without a second thought. She wasn't the person she used to be, and I wasn't going to be fooled by her desperation. So you want me to feel sorry for you now? I asked, my voice low, steady. You want me to forgive you for what you did? I don't know what I'm asking for, she whispered, shaking her head. I just want to make it right. Can we start over? I took a step back, my mind racing. She was broken now. She wasn't the woman I'd once loved, and maybe deep down I knew it. Maybe I always knew. But something inside me, something darker, kept me from giving her an inch. I don't think I can forgive you, Elena, I said quietly. I don't think I ever will. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. She just nodded, like she had expected this, like she knew it was coming. I understand, she whispered. I wanted you to know the truth. I didn't know what to say to that. She wasn't asking for forgiveness. She wasn't asking for me back. She was asking for something I couldn't give her. And I didn't know if I ever could. Later that day, I saw Richard. He was in the hallway of the office talking to someone. When he saw me, his face froze like he was caught off guard. I didn't say anything at first, just walked past him. But then I stopped. I turned to face him. She came to see me, I said, my voice cold. Richard's face tightened, his jaw clenching. What did she say? I took a step closer, my eyes locking with his. She told me the truth. Richard didn't flinch. But I could see it, just for a moment. Fear. You're not in control anymore, Richard, I said softly. You've lost her, and you're about to lose everything else. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. He didn't have to say anything. I could see it in his eyes. The cracks were starting to show. The man who had once seemed untouchable was now trembling, and I couldn't help but smile to myself. The game had changed, and this time I was the one holding the cards. The time had come. I could feel the tension building in the air, thick and suffocating. It wasn't just business anymore. It was personal. Richard had pushed me too far, and now I was going to make him pay, not with fists, but with strategy. This was the moment I had been working toward. It had taken time, careful planning, but everything was set in motion now. The pieces had moved into place, and there was no turning back. I had learned Richard's weaknesses. I had studied him, watched him closely for the right moment, and now I was ready to strike. I was going to take everything he thought he controlled and make it mine. I saw him across the conference room, standing tall, his smug expression as confident as ever. He didn't know what was coming. He couldn't see the writing on the wall, and that was his biggest mistake. His arrogance was his downfall, and it had blinded him to the fact that I was no longer the man he had once dominated. He was about to lose everything. The room was full of people, all gathered for the board meeting. My presence in that room was no longer a surprise. I had earned my place here, clawed my way up, and now I was ready to take the seat I'd always deserved. I could feel their eyes on me, waiting for the next move. They didn't know it yet, but the power shift was happening right before their eyes. Richard was the first to speak as the meeting began. His voice was as smooth and self-assured as ever, but I could see the cracks starting to show. He was losing his grip. He didn't know it yet, but I had already taken control. Let's get started, Richard said, his eyes scanning the room. His gaze landed on me for just a second, and I saw something flash in his eyes. Doubt, maybe. Or maybe it was fear. I couldn't be sure. But it was there, And I knew it was only a matter of time before he realized I wasn't the same man he used to dismiss. I let him speak, knowing that he was only digging his own grave with each word. He was confident, but it wasn't the same confidence he had when he first manipulated me. He was faltering now, and I was watching it happen, step by step. Then it came. Richard turned to me, his voice hardening. "I've heard whispers, rumors about your little rise," he said, his words laced with barely concealed anger. "You think you can just waltz in here and take over?" I stood up slowly, meeting his gaze without hesitation. "I don't think, Richard." I know. The room went quiet. Everyone turned to look at me, waiting to see how this would unfold. The power had shifted. It wasn't just in the words, it was in the way I carried myself now. I wasn't the broken man who had once stumbled into this office. I had become something else. Richard opened his mouth to respond, but I cut him off. "You've underestimated me. You thought I was weak, a fool. But look at me now, Richard. I'm the one in control." He took a step forward, his jaw clenched, but I could see the uncertainty in his eyes. He didn't know how to handle me anymore. The confident, calculating man who had once ruled over everything was now scrambling, trying to hold on to a power that was slipping away. "You think you can just waltz in and take over?" he repeated, this time louder. But his voice wavered, betraying his fear. I could feel Elena's presence in the room, standing off to the side, watching everything unfold. She was silent, but I could see the regret in her eyes. She had made her choice, and now she was left with nothing. She had no one to turn to, not even Richard, the man she thought would save her. I turned my attention back to Richard. "You're out of your depth. You've been playing the game wrong for too long." The room was still, the tension almost unbearable. Richard's expression twisted as he tried to regain his composure. "You're not going to get away with this," he growled, his voice filled with menace. "Watch me," I said, my voice colder than I'd ever heard it before. The finality in my words hung in the air like a weight. It was then that I dropped the bomb. "I've already secured the board's vote," I said, watching Richard's face fall as the realization hit him. "I'm the new CEO. It's over, Richard." "You've lost." The look on his face was priceless. Shock, disbelief, and then rage. He opened his mouth to protest, but nothing came out. His world was falling apart, and I could see it piece by piece. Elena stepped forward, her voice shaky as she spoke for the first time. You can't do this. You're going to ruin everything," she said, her eyes pleading. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen." I looked at her, but there was no emotion in my gaze. "You're right. You didn't mean it, but you did it. And now, you have to live with the consequences." Her face crumpled, the weight of my words sinking in. The woman who had once been the love of my life was now a shadow, clinging to the remnants of a world she'd helped destroy. I didn't feel sorry for her. Not anymore. Richard finally found his voice, his anger bubbling over. "You think you've won? You think you can just walk in here and take everything from me?" I stepped closer, my voice low and menacing. "I didn't take anything, Richard. You handed it to me, all of it. You made the mistake of underestimating me, and now you're going to pay for it." The room was dead silent. The board members were watching, waiting for Richard to fight back, but he didn't. He couldn't. The man who had once been on top was now a shell of his former self. He had nothing left. I turned to face Elena one last time. "You made your choice, Elena, and now it's too late to take it back." She didn't respond. She just stood there, the weight of everything we had lost hanging in the air between us. I looked back at Richard, a final smirk tugging at my lips. "Congratulations, Richard. You've just been replaced." And with that, I walked out of the room, the power now firmly in my hands. The battle was over, and I had won. I sit at my desk, the weight of the years that have passed resting in the silence around me. The office is quiet now, empty except for the soft hum of computers and the occasional murmur of voices in the hall. This place, once a symbol of my struggle, now feels like a reflection of the man I've become. Strong, resolute, untouchable. A year ago, I was a different person. Broken, lost, clinging to memories of a life I thought I had. But I'm not that man anymore. That man is gone. The man who was betrayed, who thought the world had crumbled beneath him. I have rebuilt everything, from the ground up, and now I sit at the top where I belong. The company bears my name now. My name, not Richard's, not Elena's. I lean back in my chair, running my fingers over the polished surface of the desk. It feels good. No, more than good. It feels like victory. The past is finally behind me. Just as I'm about to immerse myself in the present, my accomplishments, my new reality, the phone buzzes on my desk. I glance at it, unsure of whether I even want to answer. But something nags at me and I reach for it. It's a message from Elena. Can we talk? For a moment, I stare at the words. They don't carry the weight they once did. She doesn't carry the weight she once did. A flicker of old emotions stirs in me, but I quickly stamp them down. She's a ghost of my past now, nothing more. A reminder of a time when I was weak, when I let someone else dictate my fate. I don't even hesitate. I hit delete. There's no room for her in my life anymore. She's not the person I need, and I've learned not to let the past hold me back. Not anymore. I don't know if Elena will ever truly understand the damage she did. Maybe she thinks a simple message can fix everything. But I'm not the same man she left behind. I'm not the man who would have begged for her attention, for her forgiveness. I've moved on and it's too late for her to come back now. A soft knock at the door breaks my thoughts. It's Mark, one of the few people who actually stuck by me during my rise. He doesn't ask permission before entering, which is just how I like it. You busy? He asks, leaning against the doorframe. Not at all, I reply, gesturing to the seat across from me. What's up? He steps in and sits down, his eyes scanning the room before landing on me. Just wanted to check in. You good? I chuckle softly. I'm more than good, Mark. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. He smiles, but it's not one of pity. It's one of respect. Yeah, I can see that. Things are going well for you, huh? I nod, leaning forward, elbows on the desk. Better than I ever thought possible. Elena? He asks cautiously, like he's testing the waters. Elena is irrelevant now, I say, my voice cold. She made her choice. She can't come back from that. Mark gives me a knowing look. You've come a long way. I don't think anyone expected you to bounce back like this. I shrug, a grin tugging at the corner of my mouth. Neither did I, but I had to. I had no other choice. He leans back in the chair, watching me. So what now? I stare out the window, the city stretching out before me. Now I do what I've always planned to do. I take everything I'm owed. And you think you're ready for that? He asks quietly. I turn to face him, my expression hardening. I've been ready for a long time. The silence between us stretches, and I can almost feel the weight of everything I've gone through, the pain, the betrayal, the rise. It's all led me to this moment, and I'm not going to let anything derail me now. The door to my office opens again, and my assistant steps in. She hesitates, then says, There's someone here to see you, sir. I look at her, slightly confused. Who? She hesitates for a second longer. It's Elena. I freeze. Elena. I hadn't expected her to show up in person. I've always known she would at some point, but I didn't think it would be now. Send her in, I say, surprising even myself with how calm I sound. A moment later, she walks in. She looks the same, almost. Her hair is a little longer, and there's something different about her eyes. She doesn't look like the woman who once stood by my side. Now she looks small. Her shoulders are slumped, and there's a sadness to her that I can't quite place. She stands there for a moment, and we just look at each other. There's no bitterness on my part, but there's no forgiveness either. Not anymore, can we talk? She asks, her voice soft, hesitant. I nod, gesturing to the chair across from me. Sit down. You wanted to talk, so talk. She takes a deep breath before speaking, her words slow and measured. I made a mistake. I've made so many mistakes. I've lost so much, and I don't know if I can fix it. But I wanted to apologize. For everything. I don't respond right away. Part of me wants to say something, wants to tell her how much she hurt me. But I don't. I just sit back studying her. You can apologize all you want, Elena. It won't change what happened. It won't change the fact that you left me when I needed you most. Her eyes drop to the floor, and for a moment, I think I see a flash of the woman I once loved. But it's fleeting. You're right, she says quietly. I can't change the past. But I hope you can find it in yourself to forgive me one day. I stand up, walking to the window. I've already forgiven you, I say, my voice steady. But forgiveness doesn't change anything. We're done, Elena. And I've moved on. She doesn't say anything more. She just stands there, the weight of my words hanging in the air between us. And for the first time in a long time, I feel nothing. The bitterness is gone. The anger is gone. All that's left is indifference. I turn back to her finally. Goodbye, Elena. I hope you find what you're looking for. But it's not here. She nods, her eyes wet, but she doesn't speak again. She turns to leave, and I watch her walk out of the room. And just like that, the past is gone. I sit back down at my desk, feeling a strange sense of peace settle over me. I'm no longer that man. I'm not the one who was betrayed. I'm the one who has rebuilt his life, who has taken control of his future. The man who once stood in the shadow of someone else is now standing tall in the light of his own success. The future is mine, and nothing is going to stop me.